Yeah. Yeah. Good morning. So today we're going to be discussing more on forecasting. I'm trying out some new speaker system. So I hope my audio is more clearer. Mm. So last week I had posted some modules, video lectures on Winter's method for forecasting for seasonal, for handling data with seasonality as well as trend. Then we looked at, at least I tried to go make you familiar with some of the newer techniques in forecasting, and then gave some practical examples and issues you may face when you actually start doing forecasting with real life data sets. So I posted some 3 videos. I hope all of you have watched some of the videos at least, if not all. So this session is only designed as a doubt clearing session, and if you have any questions, comments, either on the previous topics or current topics, we can just take that, and yeah, that's the agenda for now. So. We don't really need this, but I'm still sharing some slides which has been used. So maybe it can help refresh your memory on. Yeah, go ahead. You can just ask a question. You can unmute and ask if you have a question.
Yeah. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So I actually had a doubt in the example that you demonstrated in the slides.
Interest model.
We,
Okay.
so we had, yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually had till 12 periods of time, right? And we forecasted till F12, and that was what came under forecasting of the past, right?
Yeah.
And then we said that using these data that we've obtained, we can then start predicting for the future as well, right?
Yes.
So now suppose I have to predict for say the 14th period forecast. Would it be better if I were to directly use the 12th period forecast and predict 2 periods ahead using L is equal to 2? Or would it be better if I were to first predict the 13th period forecast and then using the 13th period forecast predict for the 14th period? Because like the Winters method and the double exponential smoothing all are basically designed to adjust the slopes as and when new data comes in, right?
Correct.
So would it be better if I were to directly use F12 to calculate F14, or would you recommend going from F12 to F13 first and then using the new slopes that are obtained after F13 to calculate F14?
See, to get the new slopes at F13, you need D13. That is a demanded time 13. We don't know the demanded time 13. That's why we have to use the demand at time 12 to do the forecast. So we are not actually using the forecast at time 12 to compute forecast for time 14. We are using the L at time 12, T at time 12. The L at time 12 depends on demand at time 12. L at time 13 will depend on demand at time 13, which we don't have the demand. That's why we are using L at time 13 and T at time 13, and L at time 12 and T at time 12. If the demand of 13th period is known, then you can of course use the 13th period value and compute for the 14th period.
Yes, sir. That actually slipped my mind. But now suppose we do get the demand for 13, then which will have lesser error? The second one, right? After using F14 based on F13 only.
We hope it will have lesser error. Yeah. It is designed one period ahead, but it may not be possible just to.
So, sir, as a last question, when we calculate, so since we do not have the demand at 13, so we are using F12 and like the 12th period data only to calculate L periods ahead.
Correct.
So it does not really become too different from regression, right?
Yeah, it is a
Because we are not changing, like the slopes and all are not changing with every new forecast and demand. So it's really essentially similar to the regression line only, right?
yes. The main difference between the regression, which is easier to explain with Holt's model, is that in Holt's model, the trend, that is nothing but the slope, also can be updated when new information is available more easily. In regression model, you have to again fit a regression line using all the data points. That becomes a bit cumbersome. So just to ease uh, the calculation, we are using this so that we can easily update the trend.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
That's it. Yeah. Any other questions? Harshit Kumar, sir, if possible, upload the annotated slides. Uh, okay, so first one, I didn't even record the annotated slides. I didn't click save or anything. I don't have it. So better is if we are trying to just give similar to what we are doing in the class is what I am trying. So whatever is in the slides, you take it as it will be uploaded. So whatever I'm writing or on the board, or you can see that there's a board behind me. So we have set up a small studio thing. So we want to start giving some lectures here. So in that case, it will be good if you can actually maintain a notebook. See, even if all the information is available just before exam, it is going to be very painful for you to look at all those slides and videos. It's going to be really cumbersome. Even if you can maintain a small notebook with key things written, much easier and much faster for you to just flip it through and see what it is. Some very important things which you have to remember or something we can write it out. Like some of these expressions we can, or some of you guys himself can crowdsource. Maybe I can open it as a wiki thing. So you guys can, start typing some of these things as a kind of useful set of instructions or steps or algorithms, whatever you call it, formulas. Then it can help each other out. Just like you do when you're here. Some of you take notes, some of you don't. So you can extend the same policy here uh, to start with. If there is some very important thing which I feel it's difficult to remember or it's important to just put it, I will do that. But some of the videos I forgot to click that save button, so I didn't realize that. So after it was all finished, I just closed it and I realized I had lost all the annotations of the first set of videos. Yeah. So for now, you just see whether you can just make note of some of it. Any other questions? So, still recall what we did was we did the Winters method where we defined three values for LT, TT, and CT, which is seasonality factor. We looked at steps to how to estimate the initial values of LT, TT, and CTs. Then we looked at an example for the same. That's pretty much what we did. So this was an example. Any specific questions? I just did this example in detail because this kind of covers everything. If you're only forecasting exponential smoothing, then it is pretty much going through L. If you're doing Holt's method is L and T. So in this case, you have LT and C. So in that sense, a very comprehensive example covering all aspects. Any other comments, questions on general this forecasting? Or does that sound okay? So next class we'll be looking at inventory. Maybe I'll put a small video which you can try to see before class, maybe 20-minute video, and we can discuss, or I can introduce a little more of inventory concepts on Friday's class. And then we'll be spending next 2 weeks on just inventory control. And looks like either everybody got it or no. People have not yet seen the videos. If not, you can use this time to actually see those videos. As I told, I am trying to see that either through video or live interaction, roughly you get about 3 hours of interaction with me, either via videos or via face-to-face in total per week, so that you are not too overburdened with all the other courses also. Some week maybe slightly more, slightly less, but it will average out to 3 hours roughly. So some of these sessions may be like this, like I might keep it open, so any questions or comments I can take. Some weeks can be like last week, where I will try to teach some, some specific component, like how to use a spreadsheet, or some other specific thing which I feel some live interaction or something I can keep you engaged. That's a rough plan. And of course, as I promised, we will be playing some more games. So some weeks we'll have games, which of course I will announce upfront. Any other questions or this thing on forecasting? Is that okay?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Can I ask it up?
Yeah, go ahead. What's your name?
Kshitij.
Kshitij. Yeah, go ahead.
So, while we were calculating C tilde of J, at that time we said that we take the corresponding positions from every season and then average over them.
Yes.
So, suppose we were to write this in Excel, do we need to like manually take in those values, or like, doesn't it become cumbersome to actually take in every value from the corresponding position in Excel?
Does it become cumbersome? See, we just started with spreadsheet only because it may be convenient. But spreadsheet also, there is some functions where you can offset the cell from precisely that many number of cells and take that p cell letter value. There are some functions for that, but I don't know what it is. And at least one student had emailed me saying they had actually done it in Python because they're more comfortable in Python. Please go ahead and do whichever is comfortable. If you feel comfortable in Python to do it faster, you can use Python. If you feel I just opted for spreadsheet only because I felt it may be what can I say, simpler. That's it. So how I did was I have actually shared that sheet. Let me just show the sheet here. So this is that sheet which the data at least you would have seen from the PowerPoint videos. So this spreadsheet is now shared via Moodle. So you should have an access to that via Moodle. So here the C tilde, I just offset it manually and then kind of then drag that formula. That's it. So that sense there is not real automation in that. Yeah. Just trying to keep it simple.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So if you find there are better ways to do it, please post it or please share it in the group so that more people can learn. So when there are handling large data sets, I also prefer to use Python. But now here many of you may not be familiar with Python, and then programming, it will go into a different loop. I don't want to get distracted, so I just want to use. So that's why I prefer using spreadsheets, at least for this OM course. So at least most of the calculations you can see what is happening, and even though it is little cumbersome and you do it manually, little time consuming, but that's okay. We're just a learning phase. To speed it up, we can do it later. Any other comments, questions? Did you guys follow the practical tips I had given on how to identify the data, etc.? As MSc, MAD, MAP are different measures, or are there specific cases where you advise like what we should try to minimize in which type of case so that forecast may be better? Mayank said, so in this forecasting domain, that is one very difficult. You can look at literatures, we can Google. People, there is no common method. People say this is the best. In fact, nowadays, if you will find quite a bit of papers which compares Holtz-Winters model with ARIMA-based model with the Prophet model, and then trying to see which is better. I have seen papers which have shown that for their data set, Prophet is awesome. I have seen papers which showed that Prophet is average performance only, and ARIMA is the best method. I've also seen papers where they say since data is quite steady state and traditional Winters model is fine. So if demand is kind of very stationary and you have some less data points, just go with Holt-Winters kind of model. If you have large data set and you have insufficient time, then we can go ahead and implement this ARIMA. As I told, there are some toolbox available. So you can give the data set to the toolbox which can estimate the parameter values for you. Because Prophet is also another black box. Coming to the objective, quite a few people uses MAPE objective popularly. But if you see the textbook, our textbook recommends MAD as a preferred approach. But yeah, so if it's forecasting, we can try to go with MAPE approach because it kind of takes a percentage deviation from the demand value, so it may be much more representative or much more a better measure, and it gives how much off you are of the forecast, so maybe easy to communicate. So if MAD value is large, so we don't know what it is, but MAP is large, we know that is the average percentage that is deviation from the demand, so that might give a more realistic measure. So people, at least when you do case studies, people do use MAP measure over the other two measures. But if you look at more mathematical or statistical people coming from the regression background, they try to minimize the square error or root mean square error, which kind of gives mean square error. So that's what some of them may do. Practically, people may prefer MAP. Whichever gives the least test error is the best, I guess, as per Rishabh. See, that depends on the data set, and we are only fitting the past data. So if you suppose, imagine you have weekly demand of one product since 2010, last 10 years. That itself is 52 into 10, 520 data points. That is one product. Imagine your company has 10 products. Suddenly you have 5,000 data points. And suppose you have multiple stores, say 100 stores, then you have to multiply that by 100. So that is suddenly you have the large data set you are handling. So for each data set, one or the other can become good or bad. Recently, an MTech student, like last year, graduated who did a MTech project on just forecasting. So he looked at a large data set That is very interesting. He had compared 3 methods. Let me go back to the slides and maybe quickly share about that practical experience. Yeah. What he did was he had shared in his thesis, he had master's thesis, he took ARIMA model, he took this LSTM approach, and then he used the Prophet and he used exponential smoothing method. So he had exponential smoothing, ARIMA, LSTM and Prophet. So 4 approaches were taken. So first he took the industry data. See, he was just one industry, so he took the one company, so he took the entire industry's data so that he can look at the overall what is happening in demand. Then he tried to forecast that, and then he tried to figure out what is the best performing there. He found that LSTM and Prophet were performing reasonable for that data set. Then he looked at for his company specific all product line put together, a single aggregate product. They had only one major product and many variants, so he took one of that major product and tried to do the forecasting for that. Again, LSTM performed better. Then I think came ARIMA in that. Then he tried to expand it to particular product variant where he faced difficulty because we didn't have enough data points for every product variant there. So there were a lot of gaps and product substitutions happening, so it becomes slightly difficult. So we try to group it into product families and then try to evaluate. There also the LSTM approach came out quite good. So one of the recommendation was for their industry data set, considering past, I think it took 10 or 15 year or 20 year data set. I don't remember that exactly now. I can check it up, but and recommended that probably LSTM is the way we can go ahead to come up with the best forecast. Yeah, so that's even to do that, it requires a nice MTech thesis only because we have just handling the large data, cleaning the data is also quite of work, and then trying to see why the patterns occurred, then removing some outliers, and then doing this systematically, and then coming up with a full system, because people don't want to do this full exercise again. So building a system so that you can come up with a forecast and then people can use that value and then modify whatever they want so that we can give the tracker, etc. So he just finished. So one of the plan was to use this forecast in the company, and then hopefully in 6 months time we'll get some feedback on the method, and then perhaps there may be some improvements, etc. But that's just a live example of one of the forecasting project a student of mine has done last time. About 4 or 5 years ago, another student did a project that also with company data. They were interested to predict lost sales. Remember in the last, I had presented something on lost sales, practical consideration. This one, lost sales. So there in his thesis, we tried to predict how much could have been this lost sales, which involved not just data extrapolation that we used for demand, but we also looked at inventory stocking, how much inventory was arrived, how much is. We built a simulation model. We had the data about sales of other products in the company. So we used some kind of very interesting simulation model. It had data analysis and it had some. Then we came up with some sort of analytical expression to estimate what we called as out of stock scenario, and came up with some probabilities for that. So it was quite interesting work. Done about maybe 2014 or 15, if I'm right. So those two are the examples of some real life forecasting problems we have worked on. Yeah, I don't know how much of you got that, but maybe I'll just write a small summary of each of those methods and what the broad line, maybe an abstract of it or extended abstract 1 page, and maybe share it in the group. So maybe you can take a look at that to get a feel of what kind of problems people have worked on. are currently working on in case of forecasting. Okay, if there's no further questions, then I mean, I will hang around for some more time, but we can again meet on when Friday. I'll try to post another video by tonight, or maybe until by lunchtime tomorrow. You can try to take a look at it. Not more, don't be more than half an hour, max 20 minutes. Then we can discuss more about inventory control problems, and what are various issues in inventory management on Friday. So, can explain sporadic demand item once. Yes, I can. Sporadic demand item refers to, I think, let me have it here. Yeah, very low sporadic demand is things are in stock, but it doesn't sell very often. That's what I mean by sporadic demand items. So in sporadic demand, like it is there in the stock, nobody buys it on a day-to-day basis. Maybe you may sell 1 or 2 units every few days, but still the shop keeps it because it is there. I mean, people may occasionally come and ask, so he tries to keep it. So those are called as sporadic demand items. So sporadic demand, I'll just explain sporadic and I'll come to that COVID. So I don't know if you can actually see my screen. So I don't know if you can see it. Let's say, is anything visible? Nothing is visible. Nothing is visible. Forget it. Maybe I'll come up with a better screen later. Yeah. So then I'll try to explain it in. So imagine every day we are monitoring the sales of a product. One product doesn't move. Like today there is no sale, 0 sale, second day 0 sale, third day, etc. But one of the days suddenly people come and just buy 2-3 of that products, and then again there are not much sales, and again after some time it sells. So many days there is no sale, and someday when it sells, it can sell 1 unit or 2 units or even 10 units. So those we are going to call it as sporadic demand items. So one of the suggestion is, instead of just forecasting quantity sold, because now if you average it, suppose in 10 days only suppose you took the data of last 10 days and you found that it was 0 most of the days, but some days it was one day it was 3 units, other day it was 6 units. Now if you average across all, you will get a wrong figure. So we want to forecast demand, the number of periods between the demand, saying that, what is the probability that you will ever going to get a demand during one of the days, or what is the expected number of days between order. And once we forecast that, then we say, okay, now let's try to see whether we can forecast the demand size if the demand is strictly greater than 0. So at this point, we are actually coming up with our own algorithms to do these things, saying, okay, let us try to estimate it. Maybe I can just take the number of days between demand as a value and then come up with some forecasting scheme, either moving average or just an overall average to figure out what is the average number of days between the demand. I can fit a probability distribution to figure out what is the number of periods between demands. Many theoretical model exists which assumes that the number of periods between demand could be exponentially distributed. And once it is, whenever it is not 0, then the demand size can also be estimated. So then we are coming up with some different algorithms, splitting the data and applying one of these things, either exponential smoothing or Wolf's method or something like that to estimate it. So that's how we are handling sporadic demand items. We can handle. Suchit Sharma, how are forecasting models change in situations like COVID? Suchit, what are you want to forecast? Do you want to forecast the sale of goods, or you want to forecast the number of COVID cases. What is it that you want to forecast?
Sales of goods only.
Sales of goods. Then we can actually expand it into some other concept called as forecasting under what is it called as any disaster event, like an earthquake occurs or big disruption occurs. There's some landslide and some road is cut off. Are there anybody here from Northeast? Anybody in this group from Northeast? No one. Okay, that's fine. So Kshitij is from Northeast. Where, Kshitij? Where are you from? Allahabad. That is not Northeast. That is just North. Northeast is Assam, Meghalaya, other side. You don't need to be sorry. Allahabad is also a good place. Prayagraj, I guess now. No, why I brought that up was because there is pretty much a single link in the to go to the Northeast, especially with road and rail, through the Coach Bihar section, which we call also Chicken's Neck, right? If you look at the map. So if there is any disruption there, then the entire supply of goods downstream gets affected, or from Assam on to Assam gets affected significantly. Only ways you have to do by air, which is very expensive. So there are like these kind of COVID, it becomes a bit tricky. Like so many of these are forecast. I'm sure none of the company when they did forecast in January planned that there will be COVID. So we just pretty much react to that and make the best out of that scenario. Sometimes people are quick to gauge and change the entire forecasting and say that okay, now let us we found some of the pizza deliveries also started delivering groceries. So they just changed their mode of business and then started working on it. So there's no real specific models to handle how to do because of COVID. But having said that, when there are these disruptions, there's a rich literature on what we call as risk management. So they try to estimate the risk in actually executing this forecast. So that is, it kind of moves into that space. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't think I satisfactorily answered your forecasting models for COVID. People are still working on it because right now, whatever, we just try to use a similar thing and try to revise it downwards and then try to get better estimate of what is the actual pulse that this kind of scenario may cause in the thing. You may need to look into not just extrapolating time series. That will not work. So if you want a shorter answer, the extrapolating time series will not work in times of COVID. You need to look at other factors like what kind of containment zone is there, what is the actual population demographic profile in that location, what kind of things that they may demand, and see whether your products can help meet the demand. There are many industries which got a huge hit because they were seen as luxury item and nobody wanted to buy it again. People are more interested to ensure that they got the groceries on time and some of the vegetables on time. Any other thing which has slightly seemed exotic was not, it took a huge hit. So you just can't forecast it. And even if you forecast and as a company you find that your sale is just going to disappear almost, then you have to take action that it doesn't happen. The forecasting is, yeah. So in that sense, you don't want your forecast to become true, that the demand becomes zero. You have to figure out ways where demand, you have to spur it. So that's, yeah. So that's there. Ankita Prasad, can we get to read the thesis you mentioned? I think both the theses are available in IIT library. I think the soft copy should be available. I will just check the access and then share the link. Definitely that abstracts are available. I'll share the abstracts definitely. Full thesis document, I'll try to figure out whether IIT has enabled access to the soft copy now. Otherwise, hard copies are definitely available within IIT department. But soft copy. I will see if there. I will then share that link. You don't need to go too much into the depth of it, but just a cursory glance will give you a feel of what the project is about. I can share it. Anything else? So in summary for the entire forecasting, then we have actually finished, started with why forecasting, roles and characteristics, forecasting accuracy measures. Then we looked at time series methods of exponential smoothing, moving average, Holt's method, Winters method. We learned how to calculate using spreadsheets, or at least implement it in spreadsheets. Then we also became familiar with some of the new techniques, at least the terminologies, so that Prophet or Arima, etc. Will you be telling us how to use Python instead of Excel for these models like forecasting at all in this course? Mayank, I was not planning to use Python only because then people will need to figure out and learn Python also. But if anyone of others who are discovered this Python, please maybe I can set up a wiki page where you guys can just share it and learn it. Maybe some of the TAs can help. See, pretty much we already have the data. So it import the data and then put the formula in a loop. And then that can going to help it. That is very basic. Second is Python already has some toolboxes which you can actually call the toolbox and run it. That again, we are not going to do. There are several more topics that we have to work on. Inventory management, operations control, production planning, production scheduling, what else? Distribution management, quality control. There is just too many topics. So we have. So this is the introductory course on these specific things. So very difficult to go into depth of it. But if some of you can figure it out, please share it. We will just set up a wiki page for it. The idea of this course is to give you a flavor of various aspects of operations management, not just forecasting. So forecasting, inventory control, then production planning, production scheduling, quality control, project, maybe some project planning also. So so it's roughly 2 to 3 weeks per module. How to write thesis and come up with an idea to write one? Rishabh Jain. That is a very broad question. So should I assume it as thesis in any topic or? Rishabh, would you like to explain that, what it is you are asking?
Yes, sir. So in general, I'm talking about, not just in this topic.
Okay. See, in general, first, you need to read sufficient material to see whether anything is interesting. And first convince yourself that it is an interesting problem. And having worked for so many years and seen so many work, almost there is so many interesting things out there where you think that people will know the answer to, but then we don't really have the answer. For example, this epidemics itself has shown that India doesn't have a proper model or method to figure out, estimate the number of cases in the country or even a locality. We don't really have good models for it. We don't have so the various lacuna available out there. So starting from scratch, it may look very daunting. However, that's where hopefully faculty advisors help by suggesting some broad theme areas to work on. And then typically we take up some papers in that theme area, hopefully written in the last 10 to 15 years, to see what kind of work they have done. And then take it up from there. And you'll find that there is always some improvement to be done, however incremental it may be. And while we start working on a problem, so don't worry about the last condition. While working on the problem, as you go deeper, you will realize that, hey, this is interesting. oh, this part is, you know, kind of an offshoot, but there is interesting thing, so let me go there. So your thesis itself will evolve as you do it. You may have, say, planned to do like this, like step 1, step 2, step 3. But while doing step 2, you discovered that, you know, step 2A is interesting. Then you do step 2B, then 2C. Then you'll find that even without the step 3, the rest thesis has evolved into slightly different trajectory, and that itself made my very interesting sense. So it's it is to just try to figure out and understand to yourself, you know, what is interesting, and then see whether you can, you know, do it, and then slowly, as you discuss, it will come. It's that's why it is important to first understand what are all the things done, what are the basics, what are the challenges that is currently out there. And so whenever people say these kind of issues are not known in, I also told about forecasting, right? It is not really known what is useful. It is not really known because data is not available. So that is a potential open topic for thesis. Hey, if data is not available on time, then what method should I use? If there is lost sales, what can I do? If there is product substitution, can I figure it out from the data that is given? So then you'll find that you know, you try to discover it for yourself, and then you'll find it becomes quite interesting and challenging, and then you can work on it, and hopefully you'll be able to contribute something towards that, which is what thesis is about. Don't worry about how much incremental improvement it is. Everything is critical and necessary. First is to convince yourself and say, this is interesting, let me just work on. Don't worry about, oh, this doesn't sound interesting right now. Just dedicate yourself, just keep working. You will discover something very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. General questions, I can give only general answers. Okay. Anything else? So since anyway we are meeting twice a week, I think we can close this session now. And we have taken a look at quite a bit of the forecasting, and we started with forecasting all the way up to the future of forecasting, and some practical considerations are given just as an indicative thing to get you started on this forecasting aspect. To go deeper and learn more of this Python or Prophet or LSTM approaches, you have to spend extra time in that particular domain area. I think with that, this forecasting module will just put on hold and move on to the next aspect of OM from next week, next class, not next week, on inventory. So I think that's all. So let's stop here so that we can spend similar 45 minutes to max 1 hour on Friday.